Welcome. We have a jam-packed show today. Very different lineup than what I planned for this morning, but it's okay. We're here. I want to welcome everyone in. We have a guest and two great co-hosts. A lot of news. But let's start by John. Welcome back. It's been a while. How have you been?
I've been all right. I'm glad to be back. It's been too long, as some might say. I think we were talking about that a little bit before. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Glad to be back on and hanging out with the smart people.
Oh well, then I don't know why you're hanging out with me. I'm Mr. Dumb Pants. And then Patrick, you came on short notice. Thank you. My voice is
no
still
problem.
shot, but I appreciate you. How are you doing?
I know you were saying your voice is shot. My voice is just about shot as well. Cough drops, cough medicine, Vicks vapor inhalers, these things are a godsend. And
yes, I have my.
We're gonna have a good show.
Sure.
We're gonna have a good show. It's gonna be a good time.
Everybody's
we're gonna
sick.
break down
What
some
is
good
going
stuff.
on with that?
As long as you guys can't transmit it over the internets.
We can't. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think
okay,
the viruses
so
have evolved to be transmitted over the internet. 30,000 miles. I don't think so.
That's good.
And Matt, I know you're sick too. Just different sickness.
Yeah, getting over the stomach bug. So you got me at maybe 50%. I didn't even set up the lights and everything. I'm just on my couch underneath my heated blanket.
I have my new ring light over here. Do I look more bright, more lit up than usual?
You do. You look great, actually.
Yeah, you can see my pretty face. Every little thing that's wrong with it. That's exactly what I want the people to do. Is to comment on my beauty or lack thereof, as some might say. But yeah, let's talk football. Who has? I have a lot of things to talk about. Very full show sheet. Private chat. What is that? Image. Oh no.
It's a dumb meme.
Okay. Oh no, it's hiding your faces. How do I fix that? Fixed. All right. Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Love the weekly shows and new schedule. Well, the schedule's not that new, but I appreciate loving the weekly shows. Thank you guys for doing this. Well, I always say we should enjoy it while it lasts because we never know when the last show will be. It could be this show. I mean, we never know. We'll have to see. I'm kidding. It's not going to be the last show. But I really haven't made any commitments to doing shows after the NFL draft. I'll be honest with you. I've pretty much planned out the show through there and nothing after. So we'll see. I am very excited for that though. And John, we have to schedule your segment. They don't have you for your segment.
Yeah, I know. We got to get that. We got to get that worked out. It was fun hanging out last year, so we gotta run that back and do it again.
And Patrick, your segment, if it's possible, if we can.
Yeah, for sure. I need to take a look at it. Just got back into town yesterday evening, and of course, being sick adds to that.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We still got over a month, but I know everyone there was great reviews on last year's. I streamed day 1 and day 2 of the draft. People really seemed to enjoy that. I had, I think, like 25 to 30 people come on at some point, and people seem to really enjoy that. So I'm going to be doing that again this year, and I hope everyone's excited.
Draft shows for people watching at home who have never partaken in draft shows, it's well worth the watch, no matter where it is and who it is. Better than anything ESPN puts out.
So true.
They're by midway of the first round, they're 6 picks behind. They're not talking anything actionable for the average listener, especially for fantasy football.
And that's the thing is it gets more of the immediate fantasy, idea, gut check fantasy. So it really helps. So yeah, I would agree with that, Patrick.
Yeah. So what about this trade? 0.5 reception bonus for running backs. Pollard for Christian Watson. That's interesting. Let's
not like a tiered PPR like the other way.
I don't think so. I think this is a 1 for wide receiver and 1.5 for running back.
Wow,
I would read that.
Never seen that. That would make Pollard more valuable.
It certainly would, because you're not relying on the big play. You're relying on just steady volume.
Well, I mean, we know that Tony Pollard, there's a big threat to him in town. Big threat. They signed Ronald Jones.
Two-time Super Bowl champ.
Two-time Super Bowl champ, water boy Ronald Jones. Oh, that was a low blow.
More Super Bowls than Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
If that's the only guy they add, Tony Pollard to the moon.
That's not
obviously we don't really expect that to be the only guy that they add. So I don't know. This is a tough one. I think the upside for Pollard, if he kind of, I mean, we've seen even when Zeke would miss a week here or there, he was like the RB1 every time it happened.
I know.
So the upside is ridiculous. It feels like they probably are going to draft someone, and it's hard for me to get fully in on a guy who's finally getting his shot to be the starter at 26 years old. Whereas Christian Watson has theoretically a very long career in front of him. So I think it's the longevity that makes me want to lean towards the Watson side. But I think if you're a contender in this format with 1.5 points per reception, I don't hate you at all for making this move.
I've just seen so many also drafts for the Packers double dipping on offensive weapons at 15 and 45.
Mm-hmm.
And
I definitely don't think that the 3 touchdowns every week nonsense that was happening at the end of the year for Christian Watson is going to be the norm moving forward. That's not how I had him rated as a prospect. He honestly exceeded my expectations a lot.
Well, I thought he was terrible. So he vastly exceeded my expectations.
So I don't really know what to make of him going forward. He surprised me, but he didn't do it till the end of the year. And I'm just wondering how much he's going to keep that up. And I think I lean the Pollard side here, but maybe Watson if I'm in a rebuild. I think it's a pretty fair deal.
Someone said on Twitter, they got into a back and forth with me, which is always a bad idea. Because I don't really do that. I just dunk on you or bury you. But they said, I thought it was very interesting, and confidently so. They said that Romeo Doubs was more talented than Treylon Burks. That's what they said. I thought that was interesting. I did say that I thought that Twitter user was disconnected from reality. I think we all live in the right reality, and he might live in a slightly different one. A slightly different one from the rest of us, like a lot of people I know, unfortunately. There's minor details. But, yeah, I don't know if I buy that, but I do think that they're going to have someone alongside Christian Watson that's actually good, unlike Romeo Doubs, who's just okay. Just okay. So what we'll have to see. I'll take Tony Pollard with a bonus.
I want Watson unless that's going to flip your team to winning.
I don't know whose value I'm more worried about from the NFL draft, though, to be honest with you. If the Packers take Quentin Johnston, then I'm that.
I don't see them taking another big-bodied receiver
Well, this mock draft right here says that they will. That's what it says right here. The one that I'm looking at right here, it says.
I wrote on some toilet paper with my urine that they're not. So.
Oh no, that sounds interesting. Have you considered starting an OnlyFans for that? I think you'd really make a lot of money.
PP predictions. I already named it for you.
That sounds great. PP predictions. Why don't you do that? Why don't I actually think people would be very interested
ever?
I have a great idea.
Folks.
Yeah, I do have a take though on Pollard that I know is unfavorable by many. And that is, I've said for the last 2 years, that Pollard is an extremely talented running back in the amount of work that he gets. However, he should never come into a season as a team starting running back. And if they do, it's because the injuries already happened or they're desperate for something else. I'm okay to be proven wrong on this by the Cowboys this year, but I don't think he should still be a starting running back for that team. I think his role is what his role is, and he does it extremely well, and using him anymore will bring about diminishing returns on his value from a pure football standpoint.
Not to, immediately start a disagreement or an argument, but people said the same thing about Austin Eckler. I mean, years ago when it was Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler as kind of the 3-down scat guy, don't really want him between the tackles. I mean, they did the same thing with Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, and Eckler has put up consecutive, RB1 finishes in the last couple of years. So I get what you're saying, but we've seen that model succeed at a high level in Austin Eckler. So I would say that range of possibility does reside within Pollard, but I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to bring someone in. I think they want a tandem backfield. So I do think they're going to look at someone in the draft.
I agree with your point for like a fantasy perspective. Absolutely. 100%. We saw that. I don't think you want, if you're the Cowboys, you don't want Tony Pollard running between the tackles. As you expand that role, he's going to
not to the extent of 20 carries a game. No,
you're not going to throw him 15, 18 carries a game.
The only thing I'll say about Pollard that hasn't been said is that he already was in a committee role this year with Zeke, what was left of him at least, and still put up an RB1 season, even though he was splitting the workload.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he has to be a workhorse to be an RB1.
Yep. Right.
The only back in this class that they could draft that would make me legitimately nervous about Tony Pollard would be Bijan Robinson. And, there's all kinds of speculation about that, but it maybe seems like something that Jerry Jones would do, but it really doesn't make any sense. So, literally any other running back in this class outside of Bijan Robinson, who probably won't even fall that far, doesn't make me nervous for Pollard.
Yeah. I mean, they could do something silly like taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 26, but I don't see that as likely. I think it's more likely they take a tight end at 26 than a running back. By the way, speaking of Cowboys, if you have Jake Ferguson or Peyton Hendershot, put them on the block now. They're going to have zero value after the draft. I think the Cowboys are like laser. There's 6 good tight ends in this class. I think the Cowboys are more than a running back, are lasered in on a tight end with one of their first 2 picks. Like, I think you can put it in pen, essentially. That's just a side note about the Cowboys. But I do think they could take a running back in the second at 58 or the third at 90. I mean, those tight end is a need for them. I think that's their biggest need, to be honest, with the way they run their offense. But running back, the Pollard's only on the franchise tag. It's also a need.
Mm-hmm. Could we talk about how, speaking of Cowboys tight ends, Dalton Schultz betting on himself, turning down 3 years for $36 million.
I don't believe that.
And walking away with...
I don't believe that offer was real. I don't believe that. But whether I believe that or not, his offer that he got was low.
Yes, it was
agreed.
Regardless, it was much lower than what... those numbers might not be 100% accurate, but it was more than 1 year, $9 million.
I don't get it. He's been productive. I feel like.
What did he do wrong last year that soured the market on
him? Get injured, I guess.
Okay.
But he was good in the games he played.
In a contact game where players hit each other at high speeds every single play, players get injured.
I know. I honestly don't get it. He only missed 2 games last year. He played 15.
It was a weird, the Twitter presence of the signing was also less prevalent than the other signings we've had so far too. It's almost like really, really super quiet. And it's the whole thing actually kind of baffles me. I expected him to command more money, to get a bigger deal, and really kind of weird that it turned out the way it did, honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't write him off, but it's not. I will say it's not the worst landing spot ever, because what you want is an opportunity to be a top 2 target on the team, and he does have that here. I mean, these other options are putrid. I mean, I think Houston has. I mean, they've been linked to a wide receiver at 12, but not everyone can take a wide receiver in the first round. This mock here has them taking Jackson Smith and Jigba at 12, which is honestly right around where I think JSN is going to go. So I could totally see that happening. But I still think that Dalton Schultz is, Nico Collins, the Texans saw him. They signed Robert Woods, and And Noah Brown, I think there are no thanks on Nico Collins' contributions over the last 2 years. There are no thanks on him.
I think
John
he's
Mechie,
clearly the number one pass catcher that's currently on the roster.
I'd agree with that. I mean, I think
we'll see if he drafts someone. So I think right now, at worst, I'm seeing him as the number 2 option. Now, is it going to be a great offense to be the number 2 option in? We'll see.
Well,
But
there's still a lot between here and there to even start projecting that.
I just think that it's not a great landing spot, but it's not the worst one. There were worse places he could have gone.
I agree with you.
It's
There's
not the
opportunity
Chargers,
for a
which is
really
what
high
I
target
think
share.
people wanted. The Chargers is what people wanted because it would have reunited him with Kellen Moore. We know that worked for fantasy in the past, and Justin Herbert is an upgrade from a significant upgrade from Dak Prescott. So it only could have gotten better. I think that's what people wanted. It's a little disappointing to go to Houston. Playing with Bryce Young or CJ Stroud is the most likely. I will say if it ends up playing with Anthony Richardson, that's not good. That's not good. But I would assume that's not the case. It's not what I've heard. It looks like Stroud is going to go 1 and Young 2 is what the chalk is right now, which is not the worst thing in the world. I dropped Dalton Schultz about a round of value. I would have rather he stayed. The track record of tight ends moving teams is bad, but I don't hate the spot. Wish it was more money. Better than where Mike Gesicki went. That landing spot to me is much worse.
You talked about the Chargers, and that's who I, as a Chargers fan, that's who I wanted for fantasy and for my team. Like Gesicki would have been a great fit in that offense. Don't ask him to block. We got other tight ends to do that. Just let him go out there and be a big slot dude. Let's roll it up.
I don't understand why the Chargers, if this was the market that on these tight ends, I don't understand why they didn't compete with this market. Are they that? I mean, they are strapped for salary, but they could have afforded it.
Maybe their intention is to get one of these rookies. Because like you said, it's a loaded class.
For tight ends, it's one of the best classes I've seen in the last handful of years. So, yeah, I'm kind of excited about the class itself.
Yeah, I will say, though, that relying on a rookie tight end to contribute right away is probably
not a good idea.
Sell. And
it's true.
In this class, there are some players, I think, of them, really only Michael Mayer, I think, could come in and play the full role immediately. The others, I think, are more raw, would take a little bit more time. But, Michael Mayer, I think, could come in, and he's well-rounded enough to play in an NFL offense from day one.
And handsome. Don't forget handsome.
Handsome. Yes. I mean, apparently I'm very handsome as well. That's what I've heard.
I mean, that comment there says you look
well.
radiant,
That's what my mommy tells me. My mommy tells me that I'm very handsome. So if Mama Tyler says it, then it must be true.
She told me the same thing.
Did she? I mean, my mother is a very nice lady. It wouldn't surprise me if she told you that. She's very nice. But yeah.
And then suddenly Patrick is no longer a co-host on the show.
It's okay. My mother's not watching. My dad might be, so he might get mad at you. But my mom's definitely not watching. I don't think my mom's ever watching.
I'll just block him on Twitter. It's fine.
My dad actually does like stuff on Twitter. I sometimes see him liking stuff, so it does happen. If Bijan was in the 2020 rookie class, where would you take him in that year's Superflex rookie draft? Well, so 2020. So that's
that was Herbert, Burrow, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, but those as prospects,
the big five.
Jonathan Taylor.
This was a CEH, JT,
Dobbins,
Swift,
101.
Akers.
Yeah, 101. He'd still be 101 in that class as prospect.
Over JT?
Oh, as prospects, Bijan Robinson is a significantly better prospect than JT. Yeah, it's not particularly close. I mean, JT was not really celebrated by the NFL like Bijan Robinson is going to be. I mean, he didn't even go in the first round. JT, to me, was a great prospect, but there were some dissenting opinions from places. To me, Bijan might be the best running back prospect in my lifetime. It's close between him. Saquon Barkley would be the other.
JT wasn't even the consensus 101 in his own class. In quarterback leagues, people were taking CEH over him.
I was just going to say the same thing. Like CEH went 101 in quite a few places for rookie picks.
Yeah, well, I think that's because
And
he
that-
had the
and that
most
came
draft
out of-
capital.
Draft capital
and
really
the
skewed that, and
landing
then
spot that everybody was
and hype.
salivating over. But
So Bijan, rookie
Would've
Joe
been-
Burrow.
I think if you look back to where Joe Burrow was ranked as a rookie, I think Bijan would still be the 101.
I think it would be between those two because
Those would
Justin
be the two,
Jefferson
yeah.
wasn't going so much later. Justin Herbert wasn't going till a good bit later. So a lot of these guys that emerged and now are studs, and we talk about them as prospects, Bijan would have been clearly above Jefferson and Herbert at the time. And
Clearly.
he would have been over JT in my opinion. So I think it really comes down to Burrow, who was the 101 that year and had the draft capital and the amazing college season and all that kind of stuff. In a super flex league, that would have been a tough decision probably between Burrow and Bijan.
To me, Bijan Robinson has no flaws. So there's really no flaws. So I don't, it's difficult. There haven't been many prospects that have come out that I feel have no flaws.
Yeah, I put out a rookie breakdown on him this week, actually, or late last week. And I went through all of the strengths and all the things that he does well. And then I said, this is the part where I normally talk about weaknesses, but I got nothing for you. So go draft Bijan.
Well, there really are no weaknesses because he was able to have over 250 carries in 2022 and still maintain over 6 yards per carry on ridiculous volume, which is essentially impossible. That doesn't happen. So there are 18 touchdowns. That there are no weaknesses. So he would have been 101 as a prospect in that class too. Actually, he'd be 101 in almost every class. I'm trying to think. I mean, who was coming in as more of a sure thing? Trevor Lawrence maybe was valued in Superflex over him. Trevor Lawrence came in like a quarterback in Superflex of that level. Coming in might have been worth more, but that's I think the one player in Superflex formats who came in worth more. In a 1 QB, I don't know if there's ever been a player come in worth more. I think he might be the one coming in worth the most that I can remember.
Yeah, I mean up there with like Saquon and Zeke in one quarterback.
Zeke had some more doubts, I think, than a Saquon.
Well,
Saquon, I think, had the superior passing profile. So for fantasy, I think there was less, especially Zeke. I think draft capital also solidified him. He rose a little bit as the process went along, but
because he was like a top 4 pick, right?
Yeah,
like
but Saquon was like a first-round starter pick from the moment he entered the ADP, whereas Zeke took a while, February, March, to kind of get there. So there's never Bijan is like a second coming of a Saquon value, something we were talking about in October. But with Bijan, you were talking about it in October of 2021 that this was coming. We've been talking about this for years. It was like the Trevor Lawrence equivalent at running back, essentially, where Zeke was not quite. I don't believe on that level. I appreciate that. Look, I'm always looking for new co-hosts. Not that I'm displeased with my current co-hosts. Honestly, they're great. But I am looking for new co-hosts, especially people who can record during the day, because I noticed that my shows do better in the numbers during the day. But it's hard to get people who can record then. So if anyone is interested, call me. Yeah, we talked about this. All right. Order 66. And I do want to get to some of the things on the show sheet that I haven't talked about as much this week. And we are going to get to that. Let's see here. Burks, 212. Sorry. 212, 301, 24-second. Russell Wilson and Brian Robinson, Calvin Ridley, and Darren Waller. That's interesting. What do we think about this one? This is a super flex trade. And 1.010 in premium. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
2 points versus 1 is a lot. What do we think about this one?
I think I lean towards the second side of that because of the premium, and Waller's the clear top pass catching option in New York right now. Ridley, I think, is going to be a big riser during the season when he gets back on the field. Wilson has a good chance to bounce back at quarterback and super flex. On the other side, the only thing that really interests me a whole lot is Burks. So I think I lean towards the second half of that.
Yeah. I don't see really much argument for the other side. I mean, I'd rather have Burks over Wilson, but not by that much. I'd much rather have the 3 players over those 3 picks by a lot. Calvin Ridley alone is not that far off from worth those 3 picks.
Yeah, Burks is the only piece in that first thing. I mean, right now that interests me. So yeah, I would probably lean the package over the picks.
I'm concerned for Burks. I think the talent's there, but I don't know what's happening with Ryan Tannehill. I don't know what the Titans are doing as an organization. I'm really concerned about his situation. By the time that situation ever gets figured out, he ends up in a Terry McLaurin type situation where all of a sudden he's 28 years old and we have no idea what's going to ever happen with him.
I'm not too worried about that. I mean, he's a little young to start having a concern about that. I mean, he's still almost 2 years younger than when Terry McLaurin entered the NFL. So I'm not that worried. I mean, he turns 23 in 2 days. So,
but I'm just more saying, by the time you get to the end of his rookie contract, you might finally start to have a semblance of what's going to happen with him. Is it?
I would say I don't even start to worry about that until a player turns 25. Okay. When a player turns 25, I'll start to look at, well, if I don't see it clearing up in 2 or 3 years, then it could be a problem. But for a 23-year-old player, I'm not going to worry about that because there's just enough time. Things change fast in the NFL. I mean, you know, the Titans could be, for all I know, the Titans could be quarterbacked by Caleb Williams in 2024. So things change very fast. So I wouldn't worry about that for someone of his age. Players that I am writing off though for that purpose, Terry McLaurin, the aforementioned Terry McLaurin. It's just too late now. It's too late to wait for a quarterback coming later. We're already going to be 28 in September. It's too late. Cortland Sutton probably might be a little too late to get the situation we want. A couple players that I am writing off, but not Treylon Burks. We talked about Christian Watson earlier. I don't know if he's a buy, really. He's weird. I don't see him moved, like, ever. He's just there in the ADP, but I rarely see him traded, rarely see him talked about, rarely see him moved.
Yeah, I think the general thing with him is you hold and you see what you've got. And if you decide you want to sell off a high value or if you decide you want to try to get rid of him in a package. So, yeah, he's not a big mover. There's too many question marks around it. Like, if I have him, I'm holding. If I don't, I'm not seeking to acquire.
I think that's been my advice mostly around Christian Watson is exactly that.
I sent out some feelers. Like, if you can buy him for like a 201 or something like that, sure thing. But if you're looking for like the 108, 109, 110, if someone's looking for that type of price range, yeah, I'm gonna let you hold on to it and see if you end up regretting holding that bag. But I'll buy it at 201.
I mean, Patrick, you've seen me try to move Christian Watson and I've failed.
Oh, I wish I could see all the trade offers that happen in that league. I wish commissioner control would allow me those things.
Nobody, from what I've gathered in that league, it feels like everyone's asleep except for me. But maybe I'm wrong. But
I did literally just put out a trade offer with a share of my Christian Watson earlier today. I was like, let's see if I can get a mid to late first round pick.
And
if it falls off and things don't fit exactly how I want it to, I sell that pick at the draft for a 24 first and move along. And I'm happy because I got a 24 first for Christian Watson.
I very much noticed that I rocked the boat in that league because like it seemed like everyone was like, oh, this is fun, nice, casual, relaxing. And then like a tornado comes in and like is like very disruptive and causes a lot of
panic.
A need to pay attention.
It made waivers something that you actually had to watch.
Well, there's just a lot of things. There's just a lot of things going on.
Because when someone dumps four players in a single day and has 4 additional roster spots, suddenly waivers, you add 4 more spots, and people are dropping players for no reason. Why are you dropping players in Dynasty during the offseason? There's no reason to drop a player unless you are literally getting some back. I've seen people drop players because, they're over the roster limit. roster limit doesn't exist in the offseason. It's
So
fake.
true.
It
That's
doesn't
why I don't pay
matter.
attention to the roster limit.
It does not. It does
The
not
roster
matter.
limit is a suggestion. It's a suggestion.
It's like the
It's a
Pirates code.
suggestion. Like a what?
The Pirates code.
Oh, I thought you said
Guidelines, suggestions. What did you think I said?
like a fire code.
Oh,
I was like, those. I don't know if that's a suggestion. I mean, it
No.
could be. I don't know about that one.
now my impulse control requires me to hold something in my hand when I'm walking next to a fire alarm because I will pull it. Like that is like my dirty like inside me.
You want to get
I want to pull the fire alarm so bad
really?
since I was like 5 years old, but I've never been able to.
Have you ever pulled a fire alarm?
No, I watched someone else do it on accident.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have to tell you that story off air.
Yeah, you will. On the clock. Wow. I think these players are back to back to me. Chubb, Pollard, and Godwin. Man. Oh, I really don't like Godwin's situation right now, but in terms of longevity, I mean, these are in terms of talent, I think Chubb is probably the most talented, then Godwin and Pollard of these three. Chubb's the oldest. And kind of we're already way past my retirement age for running back.
I don't draft old running backs in startups, so Chubb is like not on the board here. It's Pollard or Godwin for me.
Pollard's not that young either.
No, he's really not. But I mean, I guess is he 25 or 26?
26.
26. So
I'll go with Godwin. Not that I love it.
Probably how I would.
But nothing's really the thing about Godwin is that nothing's really going to happen between now and then to hurt his value more. I mean, it's already as low as it's going to be. Whereas with the other two, Pollard, I think of these three carries significantly the most risk. I mean, they could draft a running back in first. There's risk. Or a running back in the second that's good, like Zach Charbonnet, if they drafted him there, would be damaging. So Pollard does carry the most risk of these three. What worse could happen to Godwin? He currently has Baker Mayfield as his quarterback on a team where he's competing with targets with Mike Evans. I don't think it's as bad as it could be. So nothing can get worse for him. And then Chubb, they haven't replaced Kareem Hunt or Dearness Johnson. And I really don't buy that Jerome Ford is going to step up. So I don't know. They could be in the market for running back too. I don't know what they're even going to do. I mean, they have 42 and 98. Could they pick a running back? Maybe.
It's a deep running back class. That's possible. I could see Jerome Ford settling in with a Kareem Hunt light type role in that offense, but it's going to run through Chubb.
I don't know. I thought they would sign someone in free agency, to be honest.
I'm trading back one or two picks and letting someone else make that decision, and then just taking the advantage of the later round.
That's not always possible, though. I mean, sometimes you're like, "Hey, I really don't want to make this pick. Anybody want to trade up?" And it's just like crickets. So, I think to me, this is just a startup strategy. If I'm like in an established league and I know I'm a contender, then these are pretty equal value assets in my eyes. But in a startup where I don't know for sure yet, am I contending? Am I punting a year? Let's let the draft play out. I don't like drafting old running backs. Certainly not in the first 5 or 6 rounds of a startup draft. So I probably go Godwin here just based off of the way that I do startup drafts.
I have Godwin ranked the highest. So I agree with that.
Yeah, Godwin would be my pick here too.
On to this one. 1 QB, PPR start 9, send Pollard, receive Eckler. I feel like we're talking about the same range.
Pollard's a hot name, I guess.
Yeah. Man.
I just traded them the other day, so yeah.
I'd rather
Pollard
have
is a hot
Eckler.
name.
Start 9. I gotta go Eckler, because I mean that means like studs over depth in a start 9 league, and Eckler is a stud.
Well, it's not even that. It's both of these. To be honest, Pollard is past the age curve where I consider value. At this point with the running back, I'm now valuing the value. I think is gone. It's already gone. So now it's just the rest of their career. Whose rest of their career would I rather have? And I think if I'm taking a running back of that age, anytime I take a running back 26 or older, I'm essentially accepting that a large part of the reality is that I'm taking the rest of his career. So it's whose rest of career would I rather have? And I'd rather have the rest of Eckler's career. If I had to choose, I'd still rather have the rest of Eckler's career. He's a lot more proven.
I think that's good process.
Yep.
Yeah. But, would I rather have Aaron Jones 3 rounds later than either of these two? Yeah, probably. Are these guys probably both too high for me to take them? Yeah, probably, especially Eckler. So, I don't see myself getting either of these two. Especially not Eckler, given where he's going.
Yeah.
Pollard maybe, depends on.
But if I already had Pollard on my team and I was being offered Eckler, I'm pretty sure I would accept it.
I would take Eckler.
Yeah.
Especially in a start 9.
If I'm competing, I'd rather have Eckler. If I'm
I'm
rebuilding,
a
I'd
little
rather sell
nervous
Pollard
about
for
the
something.
trade thing because I feel like the history of running backs at that age going to a new team is pretty ugly. I think about like Le'Veon Bell going to the Jets, Gurley to the Falcons. Like it's just late career running backs going to a new team is usually a disaster. So that gives me pause with Eckler, the fact that he's like really holding out over this contract stuff and they've given him opportunity to seek a trade. If he got moved, I'd probably rather the Pollard side.
He's not leaving.
But assuming that he's back in the Chargers, you're talking about RB1, RB2, not like top 24, like literally number 2 overall of all running backs, probably, if he's back in LA. So, yeah.
I just don't see him getting moved.
I don't see teams having the money for him.
I don't know where
But he
he'd
wants.
go.
I don't know where he'd go that he would have the same value. And I think that's what Matt was kind of talking about there is like, how many teams are going to give the guy 200 plus carries and 100 plus targets? I don't see that shaping up in too many offenses. In fact, the only other offense I can immediately think of would be Kansas City, and they haven't given that kind of volume to any one running back anyway. So, and they're not going to trade in division. So I don't see it working in the same fashion as it has for the Chargers. So, I really kind of hope he stays
I don't
put
see it
because that's
happening.
where his
I really hope he
value's
stays
the
put.
highest.
I don't see it happening at all. I don't see the only, and I think this is kind of silly, but Minnesota is tired of Dalvin Cook, and they'd rather cut him and extend Austin Eckler and have him as part of the offense. Kirk Cousins doesn't run at all. You need a dump off option. You lost Adam Thielen. I could get that.
They stopped dumping off to even Cook last year, though.
Right, but Cook is not Eckler. I think if you had Eckler, Cook was not as effective as he was in previous years.
I just
In
think
the running game for sure, but they
you've
weren't
got-
even targeting. They weren't doing anything.
Well,
with
I
him
think what
at
happened
all.
is that they acquired a tight end who was a much more valuable receiving weapon in a short area, and then they eliminated Dalvin Cook from that part of the plan because he just wasn't effective.
I saw it before that trade even happened. That was a coaching change.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it was the only factor. I'm just saying that that
Yeah.
enhanced their ability to not utilize Dalvin Cook in that area. But I think if they had Austin Eckler, then suddenly that would change. I think
historically, late career running backs in new teams. David Johnson to the Texans. Like you just run down the whole list.
I will say David Johnson on the Texans was in the first year was a lot better than people remember. He won me a fantasy title.
There you go.
He was very good in week 16.
Is that when he came back from injury?
Was like okay in his first year with the Jets, but that just means the cliff is coming. Like it's gonna be.
No, I understand.
It's gonna be.
You don't want him to get
okay
traded.
for maybe the
What's better
first
than
year with the new team, and then the
Chargers?
cliff is there. So the only example I can think of where it went pretty well, I guess, was LaShawn McCoy going to the Bills. Like he had a couple good years with the Bills, but not that many examples of late career running backs changing teams. And
Now you got to go
Dang,
way
Bible.
back. You got to go way back to think of good examples.
Yeah.
There's none recently.
CMC
Mark Ingram-
teams, and he's playing well so
Mark
far.
Ingram's Baltimore career is
Yeah, that's
solid.
true.
It's
That's
solid.
true. And CMC looks good so far in San Francisco. But
So there's a couple, but it's not often. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can get anything for those two. I just don't think that Dallas. I think Dallas is going to bring in another option. I like both of those players, but I think they're going to bring in another option. Tight end is too important to their offense. Too important to the offense that they run to have totally unproven options. You know, even Dalton Schultz kind of came out. He was not the intended starter, like Jarwin was, and then Dalton Schultz came in. He was the backup.
I will say that those guys played well when Schultz was hurt this year. Small sample size.
They played okay on a small sample size. A little
I'm
unproven.
with you on selling them, depending on. I mean, like anything later than like a mid third, I'll probably just hold and hope that they get a chance to start.
I don't see these guys moving as a one-off trade. I think these two are something that has to be part of a package deal if you actually want to move them. They're not a one-off trade. No one's going to, pay for either one straight up. So they're package guys.
You'd be surprised if you send out the offers. You'd be surprised. You just have to be willing to do a lot of unnecessary work. So you'd be surprised. People do. I always say, "Oh, people don't do it anymore," but they do. They do. I'm always surprised at the deals that can get done. Always surprised at the patrons who tell me about these types of things.
Well, yeah, the trade questions that you get sometimes, I see those come up on Twitter. And
those are the Twitter questions. Those are really dumb. But I'm even talking about
I'm like, really?
The Patreon questions I get from people who are smart, but they're getting some of the offers they're getting are like, what should I take a second-round pick for Jake Ferguson? Yes, you should. You should accept that, but don't wait for me to get back to you. But
why are you playing a league with Jake Ferguson's mom?
I'm just telling you, you'd be surprised at a lot of what my Patreon is. It's just, yes, accept that blindly over offer that you received. Don't send your first-round pick for, I don't even know, Isaiah Pacheco. Don't do that. Like, it's not that hard. The reason why I'm good at it is because I can keep it all in my head. Like the 100 of them that I have. That's the hard part, is like keeping track of everyone. Yeah. Welcome. This is an unrelated podcast. It's called Rob Has a Podcast. It's about Survivor. But I've been a patron of them for a long time.
Oh, Ivan. Hi. I think at one point we blocked each other on Twitter a long, long time ago. He and I went back and forth after one episode, and I was being an ass. I went back and forth with him on Survivor Twitter feed like 3 years ago, and we ended up blocking each other. It was.
How do you remember that?
It was just.
I don't know how.
It was me being It was me just being a trolling dunce, and yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Anyway.
I mean, I don't even. No, you're good. I just don't even remember what I tweeted yesterday. Like, people are always like, "Why are you so mean on Twitter?" I'm like, "Well, I don't even remember what I tweeted 5 seconds later, so it's easy to be kind of a little bit mean when you don't remember it."
No hard feelings at all, dude. No worries.
I mean,
some people on Twitter are just asking for it, though.
Think so?
I had one the other day. I'll spare you all the details, but
yeah. Oh, here we go. This question, my favorite. For rookie drafts in 12-team Superflex leagues, are you taking a quarterback at 1-on-1 if needed and you exhausted all trade back attempts? Hard to pass on a starting quarterback one over any running back if your team's not Bijan ready, whatever that means. That nonsense that is. No, I'm not going to do that. No, I don't think so. I don't think so because as time passes, who's more likely to rise in value? A rookie quarterback who's struggling through camp, as almost all of them do, or a running back as we get our redraft rankings, who's going to be ranked in the top 5? Who's going to rise more in value of those two? Which one is going to rise in value from now to August? Which one of those two things? Which one's going to gain value and which one's going to go down? We all know that. So no. The answer to this question is no.
Yeah, I agree. You take Bijan, you let him start to play, and people see how good he is. And I mean, I don't want to whiff on a 101. And all these quarterbacks, like, it's the hardest position to get right. Yeah, there's upside if it pays off, but like, there's a chance that if you take one of these guys 101, you get Zach Wilson and you whiffed. But there's no chance of that with Bijan. He is a locked and loaded, sure thing. Like, there's no way that he's not going to return value when you pick him. That even if
Can
you
you
don't
imagine
plan on
if Bijan
starting him.
busts, what's gonna happen to like our world?
Yeah, we're all going to have to quit and delete
Yeah.
Twitter. And
You can delete Twitter. I have too much of an attention whore to delete Twitter. I can't do that. I love the attention too much. During the season, it just feels so good that I get 2,000 notifications a day. It's literally where I get my self-validation from. It gives me a reason to live.
I think the big thing about this particular question is you have to put this draft and this group of players in this vacuum. Like, under normal circumstances, if you're debating the top running back versus the top quarterback in a super flex, you might lean the quarterback because it's super flex. In this case, like Bijan, as we've stated earlier, there's no red flags, there's no weaknesses, there's nothing to drive him down. I think in this case, like, yeah, you take this as like, this is Bijan, not random running back from 3 years ago in that draft. This is Bijan. So I would say in this case, if you start looking at things objectively and not just like the big picture thinking, yeah, you're taking Bijan.
You acquired Christian Watson for the 112. I mean, I'm looking at the draft, even as super flex. I think I'm going to like Christian Watson more than the player at the 112.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that's a good trade.
I like that thought process. I think he's talking about the 26-year-old running back looking at the rest of their career, and I appreciate that. It's something I've talked about a lot. Eckler's holdout leverage season was last year, missed his window. I kind of agree with that. Unfortunately. Might be tough for him now.
Yeah, he's like, is he 28 now?
28, yeah, or in April. It should be 28.
Because he's saying, like he said in that interview yesterday, he wants a long-term contract. I don't see anybody giving him a long-term contract at 28 years old.
I think he's going to look for more of a raise than extra years.
He said long-term. I mean, I don't know if you watched the video he put out yesterday. He was like interviewed on a podcast or something, and he was talking about how underpaid he is, and he specifically said he wanted a long-term contract.
Well, I would like to be an underwear model, but I don't know if that's going to work out for me. I mean, maybe we'll have to see. I mean, I could give it a
that's
shot.
What I'm saying. I don't think he's going to get it at 28 years old, which, it just goes to the commenter a second ago that said he missed his window. I think that's probably true.
Now I'm going to get comments of, I would buy your underwear modeling thing, Tyler. That's what I'm going to hear. I do often get like porn bots commenting and like trying to message me on my Twitter. So, we'll see. Well, Eckler is a lot better receiving. I don't know about that. I don't know about that one. I don't know if I agree. I don't think either one is 75. Either Ferguson or Peyton Hendershot is 75% of the player that Dalton Schultz is. So we might have to.
The problem is that they would both be involved. Like, even if they didn't.
Well, that's one
draft
problem. But I also disagree with the idea that either one of them is 75% as talented as Dalton Schultz. I disagree with that. I don't see that. Dalton Schultz has a long history of actually producing receiving yards in the NFL. These players were not drafted very highly. I didn't really like them as prospects, and they've proven nothing. So,
if you look at the receptions they had, they were not the first read. They were not the second read. So
they were just there.
Yeah, exactly. But
they also didn't come in with a good profile. They didn't come in with a good profile. So, and Dalton Schultz didn't either, but he proved in the NFL. He has NFL production on his resume, and these players have bad profiles and no NFL production, really. So I think I need to see something before I say that they're 70 can even approximate together what Dalton Schultz gave you. I think I need to see a little more before we get there. I think Dalton Schultz is a lot better than people are giving him credit for. I hear some people saying, well, you can just replace him easily. I don't agree. I would have been lining up to pay him if I were the Chargers or other teams. The Texans, I'm surprised it didn't cost more. The Patriots, I would have much rather paid Dalton Schultz the $6.25 million with $2.75 in incentives than what they paid disaster Gesicki. In terrible fit Gesicki, who doesn't fit in their offense at all. I don't see that. I don't see what the point of that was. Having Gesicki and Juju in the same offense is not going to work. So I don't know what they were thinking. But Dalton Schultz would have fit perfectly in that offense. So we'll have to see. But I don't understand his market. I don't understand how people perceive him. And I don't understand his value from an NFL perspective at all. I just don't agree. So maybe we'll have to see who's right and who's wrong. If he does well on the Texans, I think he'll have an opportunity to have a good long-term contract at some point. He already had one franchise tag, so it's going to be expensive to franchise tag him again. So if he does well, he'll still only be 28 then next year, which is still young for a tight end. Maybe he'll get his payday then. But, at the same time, you can't really complain, right? I mean, he's had a franchise tag of $10 million, and now we might have up to $9 million, $19 million. This is a lot of money. So I don't feel too sorry for him. And he's a great guy, by the way. You should check out some of his streaming stuff.
I could live a couple different lifetimes on them.
I'm sure you could. But Dalton Schultz is a great guy. He does a lot of good streaming content, really engages with the community on Twitter and all that. So I think there's always a player that I'm rooting for, players like that who really get out there and engage with the community online. Because we're their fans. And, I always like when they kind of give something back to us. Austin Eckler is another one who does, very much so. That's why I'm always kind of rooting for him. Another player we talked about. Oh, this is good. Good. This is a good question, Order 66. I like this one. What is Jordan Love's value in a superflex? I like this question a lot. I think we can safely assume that Aaron Rodgers is gone. He's not coming back. He's either retiring or playing for the Jets. He's not coming back to the Packers. Packers have moved on. So with that being said, what's Jordan Love's value?
Are we sure that if Rodgers moves on, that Jordan Love is the guy?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They don't
I think that's a safe assumption. Has he ever, even when he's had to fill in during injuries or whatever, has he ever looked good?
Yes, he did this year when he filled in. He did.
Yeah.
He looked good.
His preseason going into last year, he looked very good. He commanded drives. He moved the ball well. He hit his reads. He did everything you wanted to see out of a guy.
I think overall, I really don't count what he's done in the NFL for or against him much because he's had no opportunity to play and there was nothing he could have done to earn it. So
Are you paying a first for him?
No.
In Superflex?
No, because he wasn't worth. Let's rewind a second. Let's say that I just had to evaluate him as a prospect. He was taken around, 25th overall? 25th or 26th? Mm-hmm. And I was just evaluating him as a prospect and assigned him say he was the starter then. Because nothing's really changed. Say he was the starter then. He wasn't worth a first then. His profile doesn't dictate that he was worth a first then. I think he got about the right draft capital. 20 would have given him a borderline first round grade. I was not a fan. So for me, I don't think he'd be worth a first in Superflex. If I knew the reason why he fell to the mid to late second was because there was going to be a delay because you were going to have to wait. But I think if he had started right away, he would have been worth, a late first to some, probably early second for, me. So that's what I have him as worth now. I have him worth
24 years old, which is younger than I thought, honestly. I just had to look it up.
He came in very young.
It's been so long since he was drafted. I was like, is he 26? Is he 27? How old is this guy?
He's younger than Kenny Pickett.
He's 24, which is pretty nice.
It's not about the age.
If everything hits best case scenario, he takes over this year. He looks great. He's the future of the franchise. He's the new Rodgers to Favre. If best case scenario plays out, he's easily worth a first. But
yeah, but that's if the best case
that's
scenario
like
plays out.
you can't pay for a guy at his ceiling. So
I think his
Yeah.
ceiling is probably what? I don't know if he's ever going to be with those like top guys. I think his ceiling is probably like what?
Tannehill?
No, I mean like what value wise, like what Dak is worth now, like second round startup pick. That's probably his ceiling if everything goes right. And if everything goes wrong, he could be worth what Zach Wilson is worth now next year. So that's the range. So if you look at the overall ADP, I kind of put him in the middle of that range.
I don't know if he has that Dak upside in him, though, personally. I mean, I think if he wins the job, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's like a star in a high-powered offense, which is what Dak is. I mean,
I think that's his ceiling.
I threw out Tannehill because he's a guy who won a job later in his career and became a multi-year starter, but he was never like great for fantasy.
His ceiling's higher than that,
probably,
though.
I don't know.
He has much more arm talent. His ceiling's higher than that.
Mhm.
If it goes right, his ceiling's higher than that. The problem is that I will say that my problem with Jordan Love is not the ceiling. I actually think the ceiling's pretty high. My problem with Jordan Love is that I just don't buy it. I just don't think he's good. Like, I just don't think he's ever going to hit that ceiling. I think he's bad. I've always kind of thought he's not very good. So I think that the floor represents the majority of the range of outcomes that we're going to see. But I do want to acknowledge that the ceiling is high. It's not Ryan Tannehill. That's not the ceiling. If Jordan Love hits and is good, the ceiling is going to be high. It's going to be a second round startup pick because that's just how it works in Superflex.
There is discussion as a Packers fan of what does success for Jordan Love will look like after all this waiting. And the discussion has been, do they let him walk after 4 years, even if Rodgers comes back? What do you do? Do you call it a wasted pick, or do you pick up that fifth-year option? And people have been ready to pick up the fifth-year option on him, despite seeing a total of like 2.5 games.
I think they have to. I think it's a
that decision will be made once the Rodgers trade inevitably goes through. Is okay, now they have the cap space, they can officially do it. But he's got 2 years.
Yeah, I do think he will have the 2 years.
I think you got, even if he doesn't perform right away this first year, you still have another offseason to sell off to someone that might have some faith in it.
But if he's bad, it's going to be too late. Then, like,
I think you'd be going from an early second round pick to maybe a late second round pick in the next draft. But you're still looking at a starting quarterback in the NFL and Superflex, which inherently has value.
I will say this. The Packers are making a trade with the Jets. There could be some sort of 24 first included, 25 first. They're going to have, I think it's possible there could be conditions on all these things. It's possible that the Jets could have future ammo in order to move up, or the Packers could have future ammo from the Jets to move up and get another quarterback later. I do think if Jordan Love is bad this year, that, you know, they will bring in competition or some sort of alternative for 2024. And, you know, that'll reduce his value. And I don't know. He is so risky. He has a massive range of outcomes, like I've said. And I just think that is not necessarily the bet I would make. I have him worth between the 202 and 203. Because I wouldn't have had him as worth the first when he came out. So why would I have him as worth the first now? That's the only thing.
Did you know he and Stetson Bennett were freshmen and seniors in high school at the same time?
I didn't, but it does not surprise me. Stetson Bennett's a year older than Jordan Love, for those who are wondering. Matt, you want to plug your stuff?
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. So I got to take off. Got to go help my wife out with something, but thanks for having me on. Devi to Dynasty Film Room is my YouTube channel. I do rookie breakdowns right now. I mean, I do content all year long, not just during rookie season, but right now it's rookie breakdowns. So I want to not just tell you, I want to show you. I'll break down the film, show you strengths, weaknesses, all that kind of stuff. So come check it out, and would love to see you over there at Devi2Dynasty FR on Twitter and on YouTube. Thanks, guys. Catch y'all later.
All right, see you, man.
Peace. All right. Uh-oh. You gotta squeeze your way. I can fix that. There you go.
Oh, good. I've had neck problems in the past. I couldn't do that for very long.
All right. Small world. That's fun. I love that. I just want to say I saw this comment from the Ridley Truther earlier. I just want to tell you, I don't think Breece Hall tanked in value. Did he? I remember him still being rated very highly. I don't think that actually happened.
Was that the same week you like officially came out and you're like, Breece Hall is my Dynasty RB1 until Bijan gets in the league, and then basically moved from 1 to 2?
Yep.
I've got DLF pulled up right now, and you know who the RB1 currently is. Like,
Hall.
I mean, yeah.
Yep. I was offered this offseason 110 and Breece Hall for my 101. Very quickly declined it, but it was also like that wasn't the worst offer I've gotten for the 101. And if Breece Hall wasn't coming out the ACL, maybe I'd be more likely to consider it.
Yeah, the ACL. I'm still. I mean, it's you're still playing the big picture. So yes, Breece Hall is still up there, and yeah, that's going to change obviously with Bijan. But I don't see Breece as having tanked off the injury. Running back injuring ACL. That's not that huge a deal these days. So yeah, I expect him to come back, stay strong, and still maintain that high value.
And he's going to be playing in an offense that's not necessarily as focused around him and what he's doing as it was when he went down with an injury.
That's true.
That Jets offense should be more well-rounded, should open up holes where he's not facing a stacked box nearly as often, and it should essentially still allow for those big plays. As long as he doesn't have the Dobbins issue where he just can't get into that final gear, there's no reason why his vision isn't going to allow him to continue to hit those big holes and create those 20, 30, 40-yard rushes.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Oh, man. My voice. All right.
Which that kind of leads into the next question. I like that. I kind of like that offer.
Yeah,
It's
a good offer.
It's not enough. It's not. I don't think I say yes to it if I'm the 101 manager, but it's not a bad offer.
I mean, you're getting ETN, who's also a good running back. 109 is in a super flex. That's still going to be a premium player. Probably
You're getting
Addison
wide receiver
Johnston.
3.
Yeah, it's going to be Addison Johnston or Levis.
Mm-hmm.
Probably with Levis rising and the other two falling, it's going to be one of the wide receivers, who I still like.
Yeah,
And then
it's
Pickens
not
as well, who was good as a rookie. So this is a solid offer.
Yeah,
I'd like to get a little more. But it's a solid offer.
it's a good offer. I think if I'm actually the one sitting with the 101, I'm probably not letting it go for that, but it's not a bad offer.
I would like a Tony Pollard or something thrown on top of that. Add Tony Pollard to the ETN Pollard, Pickens in like 111. I'd definitely entertain that.
I'd like that 109 to be a little higher or something. That's all.
Definitely want options before that tier break.
Wouldn't be the weirdest thing Patreon has been used for? Oh well, we'll have to see. You know, 16 team PPR, Swift or Miles Sanders in 115. I got to tell you, the pick's on the wrong side.
Yep.
Yeah, pick's on the wrong side. We don't want more failure. That's the problem. Is we don't want more failure. We have had too much failure. It's clearly a big failure. You know, DeAndre Swift is a big failure. I don't want more of that. I don't want more of that. Players who are not liked by their teams, where we see Jamal Williams relegate you to the bench, and then the team is like, well, the guy who relegated you to the bench actually isn't good enough. We're going to get someone even who's better than that guy at everything and sign him to a lot of money to relegate you further to the bench. David Montgomery is the Lions starter, not DeAndre Swift. And I see people with like delusional values on DeAndre Swift still, and it is what it's been for the last year, really. it's just take lock. It's just take lock. People don't want to admit that they, or not the last year, but really since October or so, it's been take lock. People just don't want to admit that they're wrong. They don't want to admit that they're wrong. They don't want to admit that they had DeAndre Swift rated so highly and now he's not worth much. They don't want to admit that. They don't want to admit that they were wrong. And it sucks. But that's why people keep coming back to me for advice, because I don't do take lock. DeAndre Swift isn't worth much anymore. Miles Sanders is in a far better situation. He just signed a big contract. He's the lead on the depth chart right now, and I don't see how Carolina is going to bring in someone in. So the pick's on the wrong side. If the pick were on the other side, I would go with Swift. It's close enough, but not in this case. Right?
I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement, and I hate to say it because I was one of the guys banging the drum for DeAndre Swift last year, and it didn't work out. And I saw what they did, which is exactly what you described. They brought in someone that was, better in every facet. I'm taking Miles Sanders there.
Miles Sanders is worth more than DeAndre Swift, I think.
Yep.
Should be.
Yeah, he should be. I feel like Swift lost his value. I think it was like week 1. He had like a 45 or 50 yard rush and got taken down at the 1 yard line. And as soon as they brought in Swift for that goal line work, and at first it was, Swift is gassed. And then the next time it happens again. And then Swift comes in at the goal line and he doesn't get it. And they bring in Jamal. And Jamal gets it. And then Jamal gets it again. And it's like, at that moment, it was over for Swift.
Yeah.
He was never going to be the end zone guy. But
I just don't I'm not sure what I missed, because in March's ADP, I've been begging people for 3 months to sell DeAndre Swift. March ADP with rookies included. DeAndre Swift was still the RB10 and 36th overall. How were people this, I don't want to use the word dumb, but dumb.
Stubborn, maybe stubborn.
But it's more than stubborn. That's a wild misvalue. Rounds off of the reality. And I begged people for months that DeAndre Swift's value was ridiculous. And now here we are. They signed essentially the best running back in free agency, or one of the two best, whoever. You take your pick between Montgomery and Sanders. And people are still hanging on. And I don't get it. I'm a Schultz guy, too, for the record. The crazy guy playing in 2 to 2.75 tight end premium leagues. I don't dig the Texans spot, but I'm okay with it. There were worse spots.
Yeah, it's just okay. It's fine.
Patriots were a worse spot. Lance, 108, 24 first, second, and Howell plus 311, or Daniel Jones, 112, Pittman, Wandale, Rojo, and Baker.
You didn't tell me there was going to be math.
Yeah, this is a little too complicated for
There's
me.
actually not that much to add up. It's Lance and
Teacher's
two firsts, or Danny Dimes, a late first, and Pittman.
Yeah, I'll go with the Lance side.
Yeah, sure. Give me Lance side.
Yeah. That 24 first is the only thing in here that has real premium upside. So, honestly.
Yeah.
And the 108 might be the second most exciting. Oh, Lance side. And then sell Lance for something. Oh, I love this. What's up, dude? Gonna record a podcast tonight, episode 0. Any advice?
Don't suck.
That's bad advice, because your first podcast is gonna suck.
Probably.
So
if it's gonna suck, then learn.
Yeah, no, but your early content is gonna suck.
Yep.
I will say, I think my early content was better than most, and I think my problem is that I really haven't improved. That's why my YouTube channel hasn't grown. Not much has changed. If you listen to me all that changes is now I go on tangents and diatribes and complain. So if anything, I think I've gotten worse. I used to talk about football a lot more. But no, my main advice is be yourself. Be yourself. You're not going to be able to be someone else forever, so don't start by being someone else.
I would agree with that. Be yourself, be comfortable, take a deep breath.
Like, I'm not going to be able to be the nicest podcaster because I'm not that nice. So, like, I'm not going to pretend that I am. I'm harsh, kind of biting, a little sarcastic, can be mean at times. But that's really the person I am. It's not an act. That this is me. Like, you guys know what I'm really like. And, you know, like, if, you know, some of my, like Ryan or Hutch tried to be that, that's not who they are. So it wouldn't go over very well. But, you know, they do great being nice and, like, the really kind people that they are. So, you know, like, be yourself. Like, you have to play the cards that you actually have, not cards that don't exist. So I think that's my best advice. Oh, one other thing. Self-promote. A lot of people don't want to do it, but you won't succeed without it. If you don't promote your own stuff, why should anyone listen? Why should anyone watch? If it's not good enough for you to promote it, if it's not good enough for you to put it out on Twitter or whatever and say, I'm promoting this because I think people should watch it, why should anyone watch it? Why should anyone listen? If you don't believe in it, there's no point. So if you can't self-promote and you don't want to do that, then you shouldn't even do content. That is a crucial part of doing content. It's not an optional thing. It is part of it. You have to do it because it shows people that you believe in what you're doing. And that is the most important thing. Because if you don't believe in it, nobody else will.
I'll add that you need to give yourself grace. You're going to mess up.
Too.
You're going to fumble over your words. You're going to get lost. You're going to get off track. You're going to be miles away from the point, and you're going to say, shoot, I need to get back to where I was supposed to be. Or this didn't sound like I intended it to.
Oh, my God.
And suddenly you're left with this rambling mess of an answer like Patrick's giving right now, where he doesn't even know where the sentence is going. But we're going to finish it, and we're going to bring it back to the point that you need to give yourself grace as you're growing and as you're listening. And those that are listening and are engaged are going to give you that same grace that you're going to give yourself. I've never heard someone say, I'm not going to keep listening to this because they went on one extra tangent. Or they stumbled across the question. They're going to stick with you because you stuck through it yourself and still provided that good content. That's what matters at the end of the day.
And I would say the only other thing I would add there is be receptive to criticism, like be receptive to some critique. Allow that to kind of shape and mold the things that you can fix, the things you can improve. I think in all content creation, being able to take some critique is a definite way we can grow, getting an ulterior perspective and stuff like that. So be receptive to it.
Yeah. Or, you know, if you don't want to do that, then if you just want to do it your way, then you have to do it yourself. If you want to do it your way, then you can't create content on someone else's platform. You have to do it on your own. There's a reason why I'm doing all these shows on my own channel, because this show can't get canceled. Like, nobody can cancel the show other than me. And there's a reason why that I feel so much more free and so much more comfortable doing shows now than I ever have. So, you know, if you are like me and don't really want to have your every show broken down or criticized or whatever, then create your own channel, because then you're the boss. So that's my other advice. Oh, one last thing. Make friends in the industry. Make friends. Retweet groups, share groups, chat groups. Just friends who will share your content. Because even though I have 33,000 something followers, I can't hit everyone on Twitter. So having other people to like support and promote you is everything.
people are always watching from the industry. They may not always like or interact, but as you're building yourself, people are watching how you engage with others, how you interact, and it's almost like a constant interview. And impressions are always made. Like if they see you getting into fights with people with no followers, and you're getting nasty with them, are they going to be interested in you representing a brand? Is that what they want? Not usually. They want someone that can disagree respectfully, and build off of that.
Yeah, and I'm not the best at it, and I know that. You know, there's like I'm not.
I'm terrible. I'm terrible at it.
I'm terrible. You know, I'm terrible. I'm not good at playing nice, and it's something I've had to work on. But you know, it's also part of the reason why I do a lot of things on my own, and that's a choice that I made, and it works for me. And it's there's a lot of different paths, and you just have to find the one that works best for you. Some people really like working in like content teams or working on other people's channels, and that's the best for them because they don't have to worry about the back end, they don't have to worry about the SEO, they don't have to worry about getting the podcast feed up, and they don't have to worry about managing YouTube and all that stuff. But like I'd rather do it, and then it's all mine. But gotta find your own path. I have a couple other things. Actually, a lot of things. There was so much news this week. Like so much. But I think the biggest thing that I haven't talked about too much was Brandon Cooks. I haven't talked about that too much. What do you guys think about the Brandon Cooks trade and like the impact that that's going to have?
I think initially, like my first thing was Michael Gallup gets bumped down significantly. Like I believe it was an absolute testament to how they felt he was contributing, and not in the manner of being that reliable wide receiver to CeeDee Lamb. So I think it's going to bump Gallup down considerably for me.
Yeah. When Noah Brown, I believe that's what his name was your wide receiver 2 for most of the year, and was doing nothing spectacular, nothing like elite, not barely great at times, but just he was there and he caught the ball. Like they needed something, and I don't think they weren't a wide receiver 2 away from the Super Bowl, but they were a wide receiver 2 from the NFC Championship game.
You know what the crazy thing is how stuck under that Michael Gallup contract they are. Like it is a bad contract.
I haven't looked into the particulars, but I don't remember it being good, but I don't remember it being horrendous. Is it pretty bad?
It's bad. And they just restructured it to push the more guaranteed money into 2024. So they owe him $13 million in dead cap next year. They would save almost nothing by cutting him.
It's almost like they could almost pay Amari Cooper with that.
Well, that would have been a lot smarter.
Yeah, agreed.
But Michael Gallup will fill that role and do it even better. No.
Yeah, it didn't work out. And I tried to be patient with Gallup as from a fantasy production standpoint, based on coming off the injury and whatnot. But even when he should have been okay, he was not okay. So this is kind of the stake in the heart, so to speak, is bringing in a guy that's done nothing but put up 1,000-yard seasons every year with no matter what quarterback he's got. So I think you're getting your reliability right there, and they're immediately getting, like you said, what they already had when they had Amari Cooper there. So yeah, Gallup is he's way down for me now.
Yeah, he's just a handcuff at this point, really. Wide receiver handcuff, of which there aren't many. But he is one of them. Would you rather make the finals and lose every time, or would you rather never make it to finals ever? Oh, I mean, the first one, obviously. I want the money. Yeah. That's an easy one.
Wait, never have to pay league dues? Just keep reinvesting that and doubling my initial investment?
I don't know about that one. All right. Let me see. So, a couple other things that happened relatively recently. The Panthers signed Adam Thielen. Why?
I think I said that when like the Thielen cut came through.
Why did they do that?
Carolina's
They
not
gave him,
embracing
like,
the tank.
He gave him like a sweetheart deal. I mean, Adam Thielen was cooked. Like cooked. And they gave him $14 million guaranteed, and his contract is underwater for the next 2 years. Like it's not a 2-year deal. Insane.
I was listening to Teddy Bruschi. Was it Teddy Bruschi? Yeah. As he talked about the Panthers, and I really liked what he brought up that they are the only team that's bringing back their entire offensive line from last year, fully back, and their defense is still in really good shape. So filling in a few extra spots on the offense in terms of weapons, so adding Miles Sanders, adding Adam Thielen, add your new QB1. You've created kind of your safety net already for your team. You added Hayden Hurst, a solid veteran pass catching tight end. You are setting up your number 1 overall pick to be well protected, to have 2 solid receivers that are great safety blankets, and a defense that can get them back on the field.
Yeah.
You're setting them up better than a lot of number 1 overall picks have been set up in the recent history.
I've heard they might sign DJ Chark as well.
Yeah, he's something that I've heard has been rumored to them quite a bit, but nothing official yet.
Most mocks have them taking a wide receiver in the second. I think that would be interesting. They take Stroud at 1, they sign Chark and Thielen and free agency, and Hurst and Sanders. So they basically made a whole team out of free agency, and then a wide receiver in the second to kind of build around. That would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But they're so short on draft picks. I feel like they need to.
They're going to have to prioritize their holes, that's for sure, because you already know one of them has to be a quarterback. So
they gave up their only wide receiver.
Yeah.
Oh, and I did like that they also mentioned bringing in Andy Dalton as just a guy that knows how to do things. Is going to take energy away from and snaps away from number 1 pick. Let him develop and actually be able to teach him beyond just someone that's fighting for a job.
Yeah, I do think that Bryce Young or CJ Stroud can play week 1.
Mm-hmm.
At work tonight, just wanted to jump in and comment for the algorithm. Can't wait to watch later. I appreciate that. Josh, starts my meeting. What's up, y'all? Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good. Predict Rodgers trade value. I think the fair deal is a second this year and a conditional third next year. What do you think? I don't know. I feel like the Packers want a first plus. I wouldn't pay it.
I think Rodgers' ego wants a first.
I would agree with that for sure. I think his ego wants to see how much he can fetch on the trade market. So I would agree with that. I do think they're looking for a first. I think they're in it for the picks. So yeah, I think they're looking for a first plus as well.
I can see being a first. Packers wanting right now probably a first, second, and Jets being at like the first, third kind of, and they're just back and forth in that range.
I think it will. I think there will be a conditional pick. I absolutely believe that when you're dealing someone that has the history that Rodgers has at performing at a high level, I do think they can squeak a conditional in there.
Add some type of bonuses, like an MVP season or Super Bowl or something like that out of it.
Yeah.
It would be interesting.
Something like that.
What if we saw like we don't see it in the NFL, but protected first round picks. Where if it's but like reverse side of it, like if it's later than like pick 25, it waits until the next, something like that. I don't know.
I don't think that really happens in the NFL.
It hasn't happened in the NFL. It's been more of a hockey and basketball thing for a while.
We'll see. Trying to move players this offseason. What are Kamara and Mark Andrews individually worth? Well, Kamara is not worth much. Like mid to late second. I'm not interested in Kamara. Mark Andrews is still worth a lot.
Yeah, Andrews is still worth.
Andrews, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like for Andrews, I'd rather have the top three, outside of quarterbacks, I'd rather have the top three positional players of Robinson, JSN, and Gibbs over Andrews, unless it's a tight end premium. And then 10-team Superflex, I'd still probably rather have the quarterbacks, even if it's only a 10-team Superflex. So
that puts you at what, mid first?
Yeah.
I was thinking late first for Andrews, like somewhere in that range.
Andrews might be a buy these days.
Kamara's
he restructured his contract, so he's going to be there.
Yeah, but you're looking at the potential of a lost season for a guy that's going to, he's approaching that cliff, and now we've got a potential lost season looming ahead from a legal situation. So the volatility of that makes it difficult to nail down what I'd be willing to sacrifice, knowing that the potential of him not playing an entire season exists.
Yeah. I do think Kamara has more than 1 year left, but I'm not sure how good that's going to be. Lance in 105 or Njoku in 102, 14-team Superflex. Man. How the mighty have fallen.
Call me crazy. I'm taking Njoku in the 102 and a tight end premium.
I'm taking Njoku in the 102 also.
Same.
I want the one quarterback I actually want over not the quarterback that I want in a 14-team Superflex.
Or 101.
John.
Oh, if it's Bijan, absolutely, I want that side.
Yeah, that's worth even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's worth even more then.
I'd take yesterday's chicken salad in the 101 in that deal.
Yeah, I don't want Lance. You may have already touched on this. We haven't. Say Kamara suspended 4 games. So you're taking first in drafts, Williams or Kamara? I am worried about. I mean, I don't think they would bring in Williams on that type of contract if they didn't plan on using him. So, 4 games, probably Kamara. But
4 games, I'm still taking Kamara. If it's half a season, that changes things. If it's 8 games, 4 games, yeah, I'll still take him. I think he'll fall, but I'll still take Kamara.
Yeah, Kamara's not an RB1 for me anymore. So if there was no suspension at all, I'd probably take Kamara around like RB 15 or 16. Williams probably around 30.
I mean, Jamal Williams here. I like what I think he can do in the first 4 games of the season, and I think he can carve out more of a role than you were initially slating him out for going into the season, when assuming both backs were healthy.
Also, this Jamal Williams having no role in the receiving game and being a goal line thumper was a last year's invention. That's not how he was used in the previous 5 years of his career.
Exactly.
Right.
He's really good at a lot of things.
Yeah. He could see more usage in the I mean, he had 17 rushing touchdowns in 2022 and 13 in the 5 years before that.
Right.
But he had 12 receptions in 2022, which was the only year that he had less than 25. So his usage wildly changed. I do think if Kamara is out, Jamal Williams will have everything and will be an RB1 during that period of time. It's another one of those backfields where there's going to be 2 guys that they trust, and the backup is actually better than if the starter's out than the starter is originally. The Bengals last year were an example where you're actually better off with Samaje Perine with Joe Mixon out because there's only 2 guys they trusted and the backup got everything than you would have been with Joe Mixon originally. Same thing here. There's only going to be two guys they trust. You'd be better off with Jamal Williams getting everything than with Kamara getting 60%, which is what it would be. So I will like Jamal Williams as like a 0 RB target again. But yeah, I don't know. Does Damian Harris ruin James Cook or Singletary Dameon Pierce? Well, these are two very different scenarios. I felt bad for James Cook the whole time because James Cook went to the wrong team for his skill set, which was to be involved in the passing game, which this Bills don't do to their running back. So Damian Harris is not going to be an obstacle to that, but they don't do it at all. I don't know. Damian Harris, I feel like this is if they bring in nobody, then nothing has changed except James Cook is developing in year 2, and I would expect him to be the starter over Damian Harris. So, In the other case, I'm a little more worried they would add someone else. I think the Bills are kind of happy to go with Harris and Cook. The Texans, I think, are more likely to add another running back because they have a lot more draft capital. And they didn't spend a second-round pick on Cook. Well, they spent a 4th on Pierce. So we'll see. They also don't have Nyheim Hines on the roster. I think that makes the Bills a little less likely to add a whole other running back in the draft. So I'm more concerned about Dameon Pierce just because of that added risk. But I also like Dameon Pierce a lot better than James Cook. So.
You remember the numbers for the Damian Harris contract? I know it was 1 year, like a prove it deal.
1 year. It was 1.75 base. It's nothing.
Hot take. Damian Harris could very well not make 53.
I doubt it. I mean, most of the money was guaranteed.
I think this doesn't really change James Cook for me. Like, I think he's going to grow. I think he's going to improve in year 2. I never expected them to lean on him as a true 3-down workhorse because that's not how the Bills run their running back room over the last few seasons. So this doesn't really move it that much for me. I think it more clearly defines the roles because Damian Harris is not a pass catching threat and James Cook has that in his arsenal. So to me, it doesn't really change how I viewed James Cook heading into the season as if Devin Singletary were still there. It's the same to me.
No, there's no difference to me between Damian Harris and Devin Singletary. For James Cook, this has changed nothing. If this is what it is. But on the other side, the Texans, I do think this is a 1-year deal for Devin Singletary. If the right running back is there in the 3rd round, they have picks at 65 and 73. If the right one is there and they like him, I could see them taking him still. If the right one is there. I do think this rules out the Texans of taking Bijan at 12 or even taking one at 33. I think that rules that out. But I think they could take one of those 3rds. Buffalo, I don't think is going to pick a running back at all.
Oh, no.
I think this is instead of. But if Dameon Pierce survives the draft without having anyone brought in on day 2, then I'm pretty in on him. But, again, is the staying power really there with either of these two guys? Running backs come in every year. I don't know if this is where I'd put my capital in these guys.
Right.
I'm more concerned for James Cook if to Buffalo, which I've seen rumored.
Well, that's not going to happen now. I think Damian Harris is instead of Zeke.
And so we don't see any movement. So it's
not really.
Your James Cook value is safe.
I will say that I think these landing spots are terrible for Damian Harris and Devin Singletary. They both lost value. This is not what I wanted. Devin Singletary went to a place with more competition. The competition is better than it was before, so I don't like that. And more running backs could be brought in. The contract wasn't there. Damian Harris, there was a lot of discussion of him like finding a nice job, and he didn't really find that. So I'm just not really in on either player.
I mean, it's better than him working at IHOP.
That's true.
Like, it could have been much
Like Leonard
worse. Like,
Fournette.
he literally went from starting running back for the Patriots to like fourth string by the end of the year.
Happens.
Like, I'm surprised he's still in the NFL. Like, congrats, dude. Well done.
Would you trade Bateman in the 207 for Chris Godwin? I would.
Yep.
Bateman is a bust. So, yeah, I would. I don't like Bateman at all. Lamar, there's a report today that Lamar Jackson is done with the Ravens.
Saw that.
So, and their options to replace him are limited. So, I'm good on Rashaad Bateman. I'll take Godwin. And yeah, we'll wrap up the show after these couple of questions here. Let's see. What wide receiver do you project to go to the Titans? Do I think Burks could be supplanted? Well, I mean, if they take if they take Jackson Smith and Jigba at 11, then yes. But I don't expect that. I don't expect that really. They just spent a first-round pick on a wide receiver last year. They could do it 2 years in a row, but they have a lot of needs. A lot of needs. I don't know if wide receiver is even their biggest need. I mean, it is, but more is a number one wide receiver their biggest need. I think depth is a need. But in the first round, their offensive line is in shambles.
They still have quarterback questions. I mean,
that too.
So, I mean, that's something that
This
has
mock
to be on the
here
table.
has them taking Hendon Hooker in the third round. I can tell you Hendon Hooker's not going to be there in the third round. They would have to take him at 41, not 72. But I could see them doing that. I'm not sure the Titans take a wide receiver.
I don't think they take one that's going to supplant. I think they might grab someone later, but I don't think they're going to take someone that's going to plant the capital, because you can't just look at the draft capital. You have to look at what it costs to acquire the draft capital. I mean, they gave up a lot to get Burks. I think he's got a long leash, and they're going to give him plenty of room. So
they have Burks and Okonkwo, but other than that, the only two players they have that even mean anything at all are Nick Westbrook-Akina and Kyle Phillips, and those are not even wide receiver threes. I mean, they have to add somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, DJ Chark is still out there in free agency. You know, they could be in on his services, I guess. But it's Odell, but I don't see Odell going there.
I don't see him having. Yeah, I don't see.
Mecole Hardman is still a free agent, and he's someone that would kind of give them something different. So they could look at him.
Perimeter speed.
I think they have to add something. I mean, they're really screwed. But I don't know if they're going to go first round. Do you see the Colts taking a running back with their second or third pick? No. I mean, I think they're going to get a contract extension done with Jonathan Taylor. And then they still have Deion Jackson and Zach Moss as their backups. I mean, that's fine for backups to Taylor. I think it's possible. I mean, the Colts have a pick in the fourth and 3 picks in the fifth. I could see them taking a running back later in the draft, but I don't know. I think their focus is extending Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if they have so many needs too. I don't know if a running back in the second or third round is really where they're going to look.
I don't think so either. I think they've got offensive line to worry about. They could. They don't really need another wide receiver. They drafted a good tight end last year that's still got room to grow. So I see the line being more of a focal point, and obviously the glaring quarterback thing. So,
I mean, Deion Jackson actually played well at times last year, and Zach Moss wasn't bad either. So between those two, it's not the worst backups for a high-end running back like Taylor. They could probably use a veteran like, Darrell Henderson is still out there. Kareem Hunt. I think Kareem Hunt will probably be out of their price range. Leonard Fournette. Some veterans that are available. We'll see. Yeah, no, they're going with Tannehill. I don't think they have much of a choice. But Hendon Hooker is going to be an interesting project for somebody in the second round. I think somebody's going to take that project on. Could be the Titans. They're certainly not looking at Malik Willis. We know that they don't like him. But anyway, you guys have anything you want to plug?
I've got a few things coming up soon. I've got one where I go through some rankings and talk about players that I have ranked a little differently than consensus. So that'll be coming out.
That.
Yeah, late part of this week, early part of next week, somewhere in there. And then of course we got plenty of rookie stuff that's going to be hitting pretty quickly here. So yeah, a few things on the horizon.
Love that, Patrick.
Same old. Hanging out here with Tyler, and there's one of his new co-hosts, and
Love that.
hanging out with the Rum Boys on Friday nights. So love doing this. It's a good time. Keeps me sharp.
I appreciate that. And yeah, if you got to the end of the show, make sure to leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell. I didn't do any extra content this week because I was sick, but if any news comes up, I'll try to have some extra content later on this week. And yeah, check out my Patreon if you like me and my content. That's the best way to support me in that. And then, of course, you can find me on Twitter at Tyler F. Creator. But I appreciate everyone for watching, listening, or however you consume this. And I will see you all soon.